Uh, it's usually a document, sometimes it's called a syllabus, and it talks about when certain lessons happen, when you go on field trips, that sort of thing. So let's take a look here. You've got a 30-hour course, but there's lots of ways you can schedule a course. And you can see there, you can have 10 3-hour lessons, over 5 6-hour days, 10 3-hour lessons over 2 15-hour weekends, 5 6-hour workshops, 10 3-hour sessions, and so on. So this is the first part of scheduling, is deciding, okay, how am I going to break this up? Now, you may have some limitations on this if you're teaching in a college and the college just has 3-hour lectures once a week for 13 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever it is. If you're doing a workshop, you can do a Saturday workshop or 4 Saturday workshops. It really just depends on the context of your course, who you're teaching, when their availability is, and so on, that sort of thing. I did want to show you one other thing here about scheduling. Now, just forgive me while I flip there. That was pretty quick, actually. Getting better at this. This is on page, let's see, where the heck is the page here? 150, 151. Physical descriptions. Now, this is interesting. This little thing right here, linear chain, should remind you of something, CBE folks. That's the method or the way that DACOM is organized in a linear chain. If you put a goal over here, you can see objective A, B, C, D. Now, that's one way of organizing your curriculum and scheduling your curriculum. If you have objective A, which leads to B, which leads to C, which leads to D, I'll do that in a linear chain. Well, here's another way to do it, a wheel. Maybe you have objectives that kind of go around to where they started from. So there's another way of organizing or scheduling your objectives or the content of your course, how you're going to teach it. And here's one that's a 3D version of that circle, spiraling. Jerome Bruner was the guy who described this. Now, this is interesting because as you're going, into more complex aspects of a subject, you're spiraling upwards. You're reaching down, grabbing some content, knowledge, skills, and you're reaching up to that next level and reaching up to that next level. So there's another way of organizing and scheduling your course. This way, if you're going to have a spiraling curriculum, you want to have it over time. So you may want to have 3-hour sessions over a number of weeks where people can actually consolidate their knowledge on one level before going to the next level. Here's another one, wheel and hub. Now, if you have certain, I like to call it strands and threads. If you have certain threads that go through your whole course, now this is where essential skills, employability skills, professionalism, safety, ethics, those sorts of things come in. If you're doing, for example, if it's a course on using tools, and this one's about power tools, well, you may want to come back to safety on power tools. Then you may go on to, I don't know, hand tools, safety on hand tools. Working in a certain shop, doing certain procedures, safety on that. Working with chainsaws, how not to get your hand chopped off, that sort of thing. So that's a wheel and hub. Now here's another one, a linear sequence with an application. So we're going to do some theory here. We're going to apply it. We're going to add some more theory and apply it. Okay, and this will suggest a certain schedule as well. Okay, so that's it. So your imagination is really the limitation here. So this is just a brief kind of a pinpointing in the manual of where you want to look when you're thinking about scheduling and ways of organizing how you want to teach that content that you've come up with, either in your outcomes guide or in your DACOM. Now, the outcomes map gives you kind of an organization of this, So in that big circle in the middle of that outcomes map, you can have interesting pathways. You could have some linear aspects. You can have some aspects where people have to take options, or so on. Anyway, there's all kinds of ways to do it. Good luck thinking about that. And what you want to do here is, if you have some sort of notion of how you want to schedule your course and what you want to teach, choose one of those things, one of those lessons, and that will be the thing you build your lesson plan on next week as an activity. Okay, it could be a lesson plan, could be a workshop activity, and so on. And I will be talking to you about the BOPS method, and that's with a lot of P's, B-O-P-P-P. I think there's 4 P's. and the card method are two ways of developing lesson plans. And of course, there's all kinds of other ways to develop lesson plans. I'm hoping you're going to be going online and researching that as well. But that's for next week. This week, I just wanted to give you a bit of a heads up on that activity where it asks you to start thinking about schedules. Okay, that's all for now. Take it easy, and remember, let me know if you have any questions. Bye now.